Hi, this is Eric from longboxreview.com. Welcome to the show. Today is Sunday, April 12th. It's a sunny day, somewhat cold and windy. I went out for a jog. I did the equivalent of a 5K this morning, so I feel very good about myself, although I'm kind of hurting a little bit. This is the first time I've gone out for the year to do some running and get some exercise in. Other than that, I've just been walking every once in a while. I take my dog for a walk on the weekends to get him some exercise, and of course myself. But it was a great day just to get out, and spring is coming, and it was just a wonderful day to be out. Sort of like the weekend that I was at Emerald City Comicon. How's that for a transition? Anyway, I just wanted to talk about my experience at this year's Emerald City Comicon 2015, which occurred 2 weekends ago at the time of this recording. So this year was the biggest ever for Emerald City Comicon, I believe anyway. 80,000 people attended over the 3 days that Emerald City occurred. And it seemed like to me that the busiest day was actually Sunday, but that just may be because Sunday is typically the day that I've noticed where parents bring their kids, because Emerald City has two great things going for kids. One of which is that you pay one low price for all 3 days if you want. So, for example, I went all 3 days. I bought a 3-day pass along with my wife, and we took our granddaughters, Gabby and Madison, with us this year. Again, this will be the second year that we've taken them. Anyway, we only pay I want to say $10 or $15 per kid, but that gets them in all 3 days. So it's a great price for children if you want to take them to Emerald City. The second thing that Emerald City has going for kids is that they have a designated kids area. And so we took the girls to that kids area on Sunday, early in the morning, and saw some really cool Lego stuff. I posted pictures on the Longbox Review Instagram, I believe, or you can check them on Twitter or Tumblr for that matter. All that information is at longboxreview.com/feedback. Anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. That was Sunday morning, but I want to jump back to Friday, which is the first day of the con. So when I decided that I was going to go to Emerald City Comicon this year, I made it a point to check out, or I wanted to check out all of the comic book related panels. Basically I wanted to go to all the publishers' panels and anything related to comic books specifically, because in the last few years I've noticed that I've been gravitating more towards going to the celebrity guest panels, the people from the TV and movies that we all love and enjoy. But I really wanted to just focus on the comic book stuff and see what I could find out, see what excited me, and generally just kind of talk about that here today. Although I have to admit, because of the 80,000 people that were coming to Emerald City Comicon, I did not make it to a couple of those panels, and one of which I'm really, really upset about. Not upset, just disappointed that I wasn't able to make it. Anyway, so the first panel on Friday was the Vertigo panel, where they talked about some things that are particularly interesting. So the what's her title? Anyway, it's Shelley Bond. She's kind of in charge of Vertigo. Maybe not kind of. Maybe she just is in charge. Executive editor, managing editor. I don't know. I should look these things up. Anyway, she was there, and moderating was Bill Willingham, and it was interesting to see the two of them, the way that they talk to each other. There's lots of playfulness between the two of them. Odd thing, though, that I noticed as I was watching Ms. Bond, she didn't really ever look at us, at the audience. She only really looked at Bill or whomever she was talking to at the moment. It's kind of odd, that she would come to these things but not really speak to the audience in any significant fashion. So, and just an odd observation from me. But Bill Willingham was quite fun. If you're familiar with him, he's got a bit of an acerbic wit, and he's certainly let that loose. One of the things that he mentioned during his introductions was that he only agreed to do the moderation of the panel as long as he was able to get up and be able to tell Gail Simone to shut up. And of course, he was joking about that. So when he did actually introduce Gail Simone, because Gail has a new Vertigo series coming out called Clean Room, he didn't really say anything to her during the entire run of her talking about the new series, which she pointed out and told him that he missed his chance. So then he tried to say something else. I don't remember exactly what it was. And Gail turned the tables on him and told him to shut up, which, the room erupted with laughter at that point. Anyway, Gail Simone's new series is called Clean Room. And oh my gosh, I've forgotten the artist. Hold on. So the artist is Jonathan Davis Hunt. On the DC Comics Vertigo page for this lists his credit as 2000 AD. But the preview art that they showed looked really good. So that was the big new series that I was interested in out of everything that they talked about. So I'm really looking forward to that. Tim Seeley has a new trade, a new effigy trade coming out. I mentioned that because that's a series that I wanted to get, but I passed on it waiting for the trade, and because it's by Tim Seeley. Another thing, and you probably have already seen this or heard about this if you've looked at the latest previews catalog. Then you've already seen this solicitation for the final issue and final trade of Fables, which is one and the same. So the final issue of Fables, number 150? No. Okay, yes, it's number 150. But it's also a trade, a 160-page trade, which I thought that was a really cool idea. That they put those two things together like that. Although I have to wonder how are collectors going to put this in with their other 149 issues in their long boxes? Because that's something I've always wondered about. So I have some series that I collect in trade form. Very few, but there's a few. But I put them on my bookshelf. I don't put them in my boxes. And there's been a few times where I've purchased a trade and then decided I was going to start collecting the single issues, and I simply had not gone or was not able to go get all of the single issues that were collected in the trade. So do I put the first trade in with the issues 5 or 6 on, or what? So it's just something that I haven't really dealt with successfully in my mind. So I like I said, I put all my trades on the shelf and I put all my floppies in the boxes. So I'm really curious how people will store this final Fables issue. So one of the things that Shelley Bond did during the panel, and I want to mention this because there's another panel that ties into this in some fashion. She introduced like 3 or 4, maybe 4 or 5 of the newer editors at Vertigo, and they were all so young. There was one guy I remember, and the rest I believe were women editors. One of whom actually got up and talked quite a bit during the course of the panel, just promoting the works that she's doing. But it was really interesting to see these new editors and well, really, like I said, they were young. It was really interesting to see that they were these young professionals working in the comic industry, which I'm somewhat jealous about. There was a time not too long ago where DC Comics was in the midst of moving to LA, which I believe sometime this last week, it may have even been Friday, April 10th. I believe that they closed down their New York offices totally, and everything is now in California. Anyway, during the course of that, they had a job opening for an associate editor, and I seriously considered applying for it. Mostly because I've always wanted to work in comics. I'm not an artist by any stretch of the imagination. I can sort of write, but I found over the years that I'm not to toot my own horn, but I'm a pretty good editor, that's actually my main function at my job, which has nothing to do with comics. It's an engineering firm, but I'm a manager of the literature group there. And I spend a good significant amount of my time editing engineerese and making sure that everything reads well and looks good on the page. And so I thought, well, why not give this a try? I'm not so happy at work. There are times where I want to do anything else. I would rather, go work in a restaurant kitchen, which is something I used to do when I was very young, than be working at this place. But those times are few and far between, thankfully, and the situation improved. So it's a good thing that I wasn't able to actually submit my application for that job, because when I actually got around to doing it, the position was already taken down. So anyway, I found it really interesting that the editors at Vertigo got kind of a bit of a spotlight on them, which was really cool. And finally, Bill Willingham ended the panel by bringing up 3 people from the audience, I think it was, with the task of 4 people, 4 people who claimed they could sing. And did I say 4? There were 3 people who claimed that they could sing, and a 4th person was supposed to pick a winner. And he warned her that she had to pick one person. It couldn't be like a tie situation. And so they just had to basically sing something off the cuff. I don't remember what the basic topic was, but it was a bit of fun. It was kind of funny. Like I said, Bill Willingham is just a kick in the pants. If you like his sense of humor, that was a good time. Next up was the IDW panel. IDW is a company that I'm paying more attention to. I get the Star Trek ongoing series from them, as well as more recently I've gotten the Millennium miniseries based on the old TV show. And there's some other things over the years that I've gotten from them, one or 2 things over the years, but I'm paying more attention to them. But I just kind of wanted to go, like I said, to all the publishers panels. And so I went, and Dirk Wood is the guy who was moderating. And he's the guy, if you look in the previews catalog, he's the guy with the thin guy they show on the first page with the curly hair. And sometimes they insert him on the other pages as well, providing commentary. Yeah, this guy has a rock singer's voice, and it's really, really deep and gravelly, like he's been chain smoking for the last 36 hours, and he just stumbled out of the hotel room after spending a night carousing and drinking and having a lot of fun after his gig. So there you go. Anyway, just another observation from Eric. One of the things they talked about, a couple of things they talked about as far as comics coming out. Well, not a couple, more than a couple. But the first of which is called Onyx, which is a new property that they're coming out with. It looked like a cross between Silver Surfer and Exo Man of War. But the preview art that they showed was pretty good, and so I'm gonna be looking at that. I'll probably get the first arc of that and see how it goes. Another one which really intrigued me was called String Divers, and the basic cell line for this is these divers get into string theory elements, if you're familiar with string theory. So just that whole scientific theoretical aspect really appeals to me. So that's all I knew about it based on the description there at the panel. So I'm waiting for more information before I decide that I want to get it. But just based on that idea alone, it really gets me intrigued. And some of the stuff, like I said, the Fables thing. I'm not sure if Clean Room is in there, but check out the latest previews catalog, and some of these things are already in there. I know that. I don't recall seeing either one of these, though, in the IDW section. Ted Adams is adapting Richard Matheson's The Shrinking Man with Mark Torres. So, and I always look forward to seeing what kind of comic adaptations will come out based on these more or less revered science fiction and fantasy works. Though this one was in the previous catalog, or at least mentioned, but X-Files Season 11 will be coming out. So apparently the X-Files Season 10 was successful enough for IDW. I mean, it must have been, because they decided to go ahead and do the Millennium continuation, which Millennium is considered a tie-in, or an offshoot of the X-Files. So for those X-Files fans, I never got into the X-Files comics. And then finally, this is also in the latest previews catalog, the Miracle Man Artifact Edition. So if you wanted to get some reproductions of the original art pages, I believe that's what the Artifact Edition is for the Miracle Man series. There you go. I have to admit, slightly tempted to get that just because I love the Miracle Man stuff. But I am getting the Marvel hardcover reprints so that I have the whole Miracle Man story. I have almost the complete run in single issues. There are 2 issues. 2 that are eluding me because of the very low print run of that series, especially later on before the company tanked. I did encounter one of those issues at one of the sellers, the comic book sellers at Emerald City, but the guy wanted way too much money for it. And there was a crease on the cover. It was like $125, I think, for that issue. And that is not what it is going for in the price guide. So I just couldn't bring myself to spend that much money, even though I'm getting ahead of myself because I was going to talk about the shopping experience at the end of the show. But even though I went to Emerald City convincing myself that I was going to find those 2 Miracle Man issues and pay whatever price I needed to. But the more practical side of me won out once again. That's probably a good thing because, like I said, that issue was not in good shape and it was way too much money. Anyway. Okay, so that was IDW. Next up is Boom. Boom is another one of the smaller publishers whom I have been paying more attention to. I'm getting the George Perez Siren series right now from Boom. I think that's the only one I've been getting that's still going on. But I wanted to go anyway. And they talked a lot about their Comics Forward movement. So, hashtag Comics Forward. So I guess in general, Comics Forward is just we need to push the boundaries of comics, make comics better. That's kind of the gist, the takeaway of that. But they didn't specifically, I felt anyway, specifically define what this movement was, at least to me. Now, if you went to Emerald City and or you've seen coverage of Emerald City, and you disagree with that notion of mine, please let me know. But I don't know. Maybe I was distracted because I was taking notes during all these panels so that I could come back here and talk about it. But it didn't seem like that they really defined it. Like I said, it's still a good idea if all it is just make better comics. But shouldn't they be doing that anyway? But they're trying to make it more of a more than just their company's focus, I guess. One of the editors there, Shannon Waters, told a story about how she ended up as an editor at Boom. So that's the editor tie-in that I mentioned earlier. So I noted in my notes lots of editor love at Emerald City this year. So it was really cool to see, and there were other panels where other editors talked about stuff too. But again, it was just really cool to see more of a focus on the editors at a con, as opposed to, as we always see the writers and artists talk about stuff, and the PR, a few PR guys. Oh, one of the things they talked about was, I believe a question was asked. So what books would they give to new readers? And instead of trying to shill their own product, they actually talked about other companies' books. Watchmen was mentioned. I think Mouse Card, I want to say, maybe was mentioned. Things like that. Strangers in Paradise, perhaps. Or maybe I'm just thinking of the books that I like. But I thought it was really cool, though, that they mentioned other people's books. So they're not just trying to promote their own stuff. Another question that James Tinian IV answered. So he talked about how the industry needs to include more racial diversity. The comment was that, I think Tinian said this, great strides have been made recently regarding women and sexuality in comics, but he thinks that more racial diversity needs to be included. Yes, all the above. I agree with that. So that was an interesting way to end the panel. Then I went to Dark Horse. So yeah, interesting. There's a lot of the smaller publishers on this first day. So yeah, here we go. So in my notes, I say it was interesting to go from Boom's call of Tinian anyway, more diversity, and the other two panels more youthful representation, to Dark Horse's panel, which was populated by mostly older white guys. Again, that's just an odd observation from me. Dark Horse also had the most people on the panel, with only one woman, Joelle Jones, whom I have to say, she was a very pretty lady, and she had a really nice smile too. So anyway, that's neither here nor there. But so yeah, I believe that was the panel where they had to bring in extra chairs to put behind the people that were sitting at the tables up at the front of the room, because so many people showed up at the Dark Horse panel, which I like that. I mean, they may have been mostly older white guys, but at least there were a bunch of them there representing the company and the works that they're coming out with. This was also the publisher who used, what's the word I'm looking for? Video presentations to kind of as trailers, I guess that's the best way to put it. They use video trailers to promote their books, and the first one that they did that with was the Panda Brothers new series called Girl Fiend, which is about a vampire, a guy who falls in love with a vampire, and their misadventures together. So it looked pretty good. Something that is in the previews catalog this month that I noticed is a series that looked and sound really cool, and that's called Black Hammer. Think of superheroes who were wiped out of continuity. Where do the heroes go? And this was the tagline they actually had up on screen on the slide presentation. Where do heroes go when they converge? Nice dig there, Dark Horse. So that was the tagline. This is written by Jeff Lemire. So I'm actually gonna pre-order that one this month. One of the gentlemen that was there, Donnie Cates, I believe is his name. He was funny. That guy had a good sense of humor. Made me laugh and smile every time he was talking. The cover to his series, I believe, Payback or Paybacks. Anyway, that was funny. It was a riff on. No, it wasn't a riff. It showed a Batman-like character whose Batmobile-like car was being towed away, and so the takeaway of this book is it's super-powered Repo Man. And anyway, I thought that sounded like a lot of fun too. There were a ton of new series that they talked about. Death Head, Negative Space. There's a new Barbed Wire comic coming out. King Tiger. Adam.3 by Scott Collins. And in my notes, I asked myself, did Collins change his art style? Because I've never really liked Scott Collins. There's been a few things that I've gotten. I remember in particular a Flash comic that I think that Scott Collins did, and I did not like his art. But the art that I saw, the preview art for Adam.3 looked pretty good. There's also Power Cube, which is actually on the screen. It was power, the word power with 3, the superscripted 3, so Power Cubed, I guess. But Aaron Lopristi, this is his book. This is his creator-owned book. He said it's Power Cube. Or maybe I misunderstood or misheard. There's also something called Zodiac Star Force and Steam Man, which it's like Pacific Rim meets the Old West was how I kind of thought of it. So yeah, a lot of really interesting sounding books coming from Dark Horse. I'm glad to see that they're really pushing to get more and original stuff out there. I kind of wondered what would happen with Dark Horse once they lost the Star Wars licensed stuff that went to Marvel. So that was Friday. So unfortunately, the first panel that I had scheduled for Saturday was the Image Comics panel, one of the Image Comics panels, and I got there about 20 minutes before the panel started, and there was a line wrapping around the corner of the wall. And I stood there for a while, and finally they basically said that they were capped out. The entire thing was full. I think I stood there for maybe at least 5 minutes, maybe a little bit more, but no longer than 10. Anyway, they said it was full. We were welcome to stay in case somebody left, but it would be basically onesies and twosies, which is unfortunate because that was one of the panels I really wanted to go to. Oh well. But the plus side of that was that I had more time then to go talk to a couple creators that I really wanted to say hi to and tell them thank you for the work they've been doing. The first one of which oh yeah, I should tell this story. So on Friday, we're walking across the show floor and we passed the Image Comics booth, and doing that slow crawl that you do when there are, 60, 80,000 people on the floor with you. And we go by the Image Comics booth and I see Landry Q. Walker sitting there. And I basically did a double take and I pulled off to the side, out of the main flow of people because I had to check the Emerald City website because I checked these things out before I went, because I brought some comics with me to have people sign. And I did not recall seeing Landry Walker listed there. So I went and checked, and yes, he was not listed. So it's like, damn it. But we were on our way to something. I don't remember what it was. I think it was that first panel that I wanted to go to, the Vertigo panel. So I decided that I would swing back by and see if he was there. When I was done, he wasn't. Fortunately, I found out there was a piece of paper there listing everybody and their signing times at the comics booth, Image Comics booth. So I did that. I found out when he'd be there. He'd be there Saturday and Sunday as well. And so Saturday I went and at the time that he was going to be there. And I stood there and talked to him for, at least a good half an hour. And we talked a lot about Danger Club, which the final issue, number 8, just came out the week before this recording, I think. I actually I bought and downloaded the digital versions of that just so I could read it early because I won't get my physical copy of it until next week. And then the alternate ending to issue number 8, which is a separate comic, if you didn't know, which I'll get the week, or I guess in 3 weeks I'll get that. But Landry was gracious enough to show me he had photocopied the pages, so I saw the black and white photocopied pages of both the issues, and we talked about that stuff, and he talked about the the process, why they did the alternate ending, why two different issues as opposed to tacking it on to the end of one particular issue, which was Image Comics' suggestion, by the way. But yeah, it looked lovely. Had a wonderful conversation. I bought he had all 7 issues there, copies that he brought for people to buy if they wanted to have him sign, which I did. I already have all the issues, but I bought them anyway because I love the series so much. And Landry has been, like I said, he was very gracious. I've had conversations with him over Twitter as well, and he's nothing but nice. And he was very excited about the series. He had some other issues there. He sold me the Secret Origins number 11, where he had a story in it, and the final 3 issues of Red Lanterns that he wrote. So I bought all those. He signed them for me. It was great. So I had a wonderful time. That was probably the highlight of Saturday to me. And then as I was leaving, I see Greg Rucka sitting there, a few feet down. So he was one of the guys that I wanted to talk to because his work on Lazarus has just been phenomenal. It's one of my very favorite books. And so I talked to him. I congratulated him on the recent announcement of the television adaptation. And he was very, hopeful that it will continue and actually be developed into a show. But he knows better to expect that something will just be approved and put on and an instant runaway hit. So cautiously optimistic, I think, is the proper phrase to use here. So anyway, he was very cool. I've talked to him before a couple years ago at Emerald City as well, and he's a wonderful guy to talk to as well. And I'm saying as well a lot. I apologize. But so being able to talk to both Landry and Greg were awesome in that one little span of time, and totally made up for me not being able to go to the Image Comics panel. And then I got to go. Actually, I was late too because I spent so much time talking to Landry and Greg that I was late to the Nerd Rock panel. So every year we go to Emerald City Comicon. We go to the Kirby Crackle. Basically, it's an acoustic performance that Kyle Stevens puts on every year. But this year at Emerald City, they decided to do an actual panel where Kyle was there representing Kirby Crackle, but then there was also, Molly Lewis was there, whom I had not heard of before, and the band Sci-Fried as well. I didn't know about these guys either. So I got exposed to, more nerd rock artists, which is always cool. And so I got there. I think I sat there for maybe 10 minutes before the Q&A panel part of it was done. And then they got up and did basically all 3 groups, if you will, got up and did basically a 10-minute set where they played, 3 or 4 songs of theirs. And that was, that's the reason we go to the Kirby Crackle stuff, because we love listening to Kyle sing Kirby Crackle songs, and we got even more this year. So that was awesome. And when I actually did talk to Kyle at his booth on Sunday, he asked me if, how much I liked that panel as opposed to just doing, an acoustic performance. And I said, I really enjoyed it because it was really cool to be exposed to these new artists and their music. But I also enjoyed the discussion, the questions and answers, where the artists get to talk about their craft and how they perform and why they perform and how they write songs and all that kind of stuff. So I really actually enjoy that a lot. I like listening to people talk about their process. It's just creative people doing creative things really interest me, which may be why I like comics so much. Anyway, so there was a guy he called himself Dr. Vern. I think he was kind of moderating it, but he's from Sci-Fried, and he also does a podcast. Oh gosh, I don't remember the name of it. Here it is. It's called The Nerd Groove with Dr. Vern. And this is from the Nerdy Show Network. And you can find it on SoundCloud as well. Anyway, he was really great. He was the perfect kind of host. And then he got up and he and his band, these 2 or 3 other guys, played an acoustic version of a few of their songs. They were really cool. So we ended up, actually they were handing out. It started out to be this compilation CD with a bunch of things from the artists on the panel, but by the time I got up to them, they had run out of those. But they had their own CD, a Sci-Fried CD, so I got that as well for free. So that was awesome. So thank you, Dr. Vern and Sci-Fried. After lunch on Saturday, it was time to go to the Marvel panel, and so I ended up going earlier than anticipated because of the Valiant thing, the Image thing. But apparently, I did not go early enough because that one was also capped off. I did not make it to the main Marvel panel, which disappointing. However, because of those 2 experiences, I went about an hour early. There was really nothing else that I wanted to do. I mean, I walked around the floor, I looked at things, I was doing a little bit of shopping, but I ended up. It was at least a good hour before, and plus I was tired before the main DC panel. So we got in line for that. Was able to attend that. One of the interesting things from that panel was Babs Tarr was there with Cameron Stewart, and they talked about how Babs Tarr got involved with Batgirl with Cameron Stewart. And it was interesting because she said, and this may have been covered elsewhere online, but I hadn't heard of it, but she had never done sequential art when Cameron Stewart contacted her about doing Batgirl. So Cameron had found her on Tumblr and saw her Sailor Moon fan art stuff and thought she would be great on the book with him. So that was cool to hear, just being discovered in that way, right? So there you go, artists, aspiring comic book artists, put your stuff out there. You may get noticed and be asked to work on a major book. One of the other people at the DC panel was Cullen Bunn, and there was a really funny conversation about the Batman 66, Wonder Woman 77, that kind of stuff. Those lines of comics that DC is doing now. Cullen Bunn made the connection between Lobo, because I think he's writing that after Convergence is over. Maybe he's writing it now. I don't remember. He's definitely writing it after Convergence. Anyway, he made the comment about, I think they were talking about how Elvis could show up in the Batman 66, as a guest star or something. Anyway, he said something about Elvis is the Lobo of Batman 66, which I thought was really funny. Out of context, though, I guess it doesn't sound as funny. Anyway, he had a lot of good one-liners. Cullen Bunn is a funny guy too. And then Sunday was fun because one of the things that we decided upon before we went to the con was that the girls wanted to dress up. So when we took them for the first time to the con last year, one of the things that they really enjoyed was seeing all of the people dress up. And so they made the comment that they wanted to dress up the next time that we took them. So we actually bought them some costumes, and they wore them on the first day, Friday. But I also decided, and I think I mentioned this on the last Gutters episode, that I was going to dress up as Robin. So I actually bought one of the Arkham games, Arkham Asylum games, or I don't remember which one it was, but it was the Robin Halloween costume from one of those games. So I dressed up on Sunday with them. So I was Robin. Maddie, the younger one, was a version of Harley Quinn. And the girls chose these costumes. She really wanted the Harley Quinn, although she's a big Batgirl fan, but for some reason she decided not to dress up as Batgirl. And Gabby was in a pink Supergirl outfit. She likes Supergirl. And so we were walking around that day doing stuff. And at one point, I'm walking along just on the show floor, and this guy is passing me, going the opposite direction. And he's dressed up as some DC character. I don't remember which one now. But as he passes me, he kind of turns his head slightly towards me and says, "Hail Hydra." I got a big chuckle out of that. So I started laughing just like I did now. And my wife's like, What are you laughing about? I said, I'll explain later. Anyway, so I only made it to one panel that day. There were a couple panels, but just for various reasons, I only made it to the one. And this is the Redesigning Heroes panel, where Babs Tarr and Cameron Stewart was on there, I believe, and also Jamie McKelvey. And it was I wanted to go because I'm really interested in how. Oh, and the guy that I can't remember his name, who designed the Spider-Gwen outfit. And because I'm really interested in how these artists redesign, especially iconic characters' looks, right? But they didn't really talk about that, which is unfortunate. But one of the things that Jamie McKelvey said, because when we got to the Q&A, someone asked about the complaint that recent redesigns like Batgirl and Spider-Woman were perhaps too, quote, realistic, unquote, for comics, and that stuff doesn't work in comics, to which Jamie McKelvey disagreed with, and he said he disagreed with that notion entirely. So I thought that was an interesting take on it. While we were walking around, we stopped, like I said, I mentioned before, we stopped at the Kirby Crackle booth and got to talk to Kyle. We bought the new Mutate Baby CD, which I highly recommend. There's some really good songs on there. I was listening to that this morning as I was getting ready for the day. And Kyle is just, I don't know if you've never met Kyle. He's just a good sport. He's always happy to see people. He recognizes me now. I apparently stalked him enough that he knows my face. So, but anyway, Kyle's really cool. I highly recommend that if you have a chance to talk to him at a con, you do so. Or even after a show, he's always willing to talk to fans and just, he's just a really cool guy. Anyway, what else did I do that day? Oh, I got to say hello to one of my longtime favorite artists, Neil Adams. He was there. So he was selling prints along with art as well, but I can't afford that art. But the prints I could afford. And he was there. He was sitting there signing stuff. So if you bought the prints, he would sign them for you for free. And so I thought, what the hell, right? So I got a few Neil Adams prints, including a Batman and Robin one. I really wanted a Robin one. I was wearing the Robin costume, which seeing a somewhat older guy like me wearing a Robin costume, Neil Adams was probably looking at me thinking, what an idiot. But oh well. I was in geek mode and just happy to be in his presence, I guess. Anyway, I bought some prints. I also got one each for the girls, a Batgirl and a Supergirl print. I had to find the Supergirl print that was not as sexified as the other one. Anyway, so I had Neil sign those as well and address them to the girls, and so I'm going to frame those and put them in their room because they like the stuff now. Who knows in 5 years if they're going to appreciate these things, but anyway. But it was nice. So I got the Batman and Robin one because I'm a huge fan of Robin, obviously, and I was dressed as Robin. And I got a Superman and a Wonder Woman, and because it was if you buy 6, then you get a discount. Let's see that. I'm missing one. There's Batman and Robin, Superman, Wonder Woman. Oh yeah, and Daredevil. So one of my favorite Marvel characters, and there was a really cool Daredevil print that Neil Adams did, and then the 2 others that I got for the girls. So that was really cool. And I got to talk to Chris Burnham. I actually, that was one of the comics that I took, was the Batman and Robin issue, I think. Or no, it was a Batman Incorporated issue where Robin was killed. And so I had Chris Burnham sign that. And he tried to sell me on a couple trades of his graphic novels of his that had just come out, I think, or maybe had been out. But anyway, he was promoting those, so I'll have to take a look at those. I don't remember the names of them, so look them up. Chris Burnham. Oh, by the way, Nameless, Grant Morrison and Chris Burnham. Highly recommend. Check that out. Unfortunately, so I got to talk to, for the comics that I took for people to sign, I got to talk to everyone and have everyone sign stuff except for Mr. Phil Jimenez. His table was constantly busy. There were people there all the time. And there was one point where I could have stood in line on Sunday, but I was getting tired. I'm an old guy. I get tired. That was one of the things that my wife and I talked about this was Saturday, sometime Saturday. We just can't seem to, we don't have the endurance, I guess, to do the con like we used to, which, we've only been going to Emerald City for the last 5 years, but it's just, for some reason, this year just seemed particularly hard. At the end of the day, we were just so wiped and we're just exhausted and achy, Yeah, we're getting old. Yeah. Anyway, so I didn't want to stand there in the line, but now I regret it. I really wished I would have. And had my wife been with me, we were split up at that time. She would have stood in line and she would have made me stay there because she would have known how much I wanted to say hello to Mr. Jimenez and have him sign some stuff. I did tweet out that night or maybe the next day or something, that I really missed out on seeing him, and his response was, oh no. And I'm like, it's like, no big deal. There will be other opportunities, I hope, in the future. Anyway, finally on Sunday, just to mention, there was a point where we were walking on the floor. I think we were heading out. I think we had decided that, we were done with the con. We were on our way back to the hotel, and as we were walking along, I kept hearing this little kid say, "Robin, Robin, Robin." And at first I'm like, what are you talking? Who are you talking to, kid? Why are you yelling? And I realized, oh wait, is he talking to me? And indeed he was. So he stopped and he wanted to take a picture with me. His mom, he was a younger kid. There were two kids. There were two brothers there. They must have been 6, 7, maybe 8. The older one. So the older one was dressed up as Two-Face, with the makeup. A really good makeup job on half his face, and the other guy was dressed up as Joker. The younger brother was dressed up as Joker. And so the mom said, can we take your picture with the Batman characters? So we had Two-Face, Joker, Madison was Harley Quinn, and I was Robin. So they wanted to take our picture with him. So that was really cool. Was that the first time? There was another time where someone, as we were walking along the show floor, the guy, this was later, there's this one guy just stopped me and said, "Hey, can I take your picture with the girls too?" So, people were taking my picture, which that was a weird experience for me, but that was really cool at the same time. Especially in my crappy Robin costume. I mean, there were other Robins there. So I made it a point to, whenever I passed a Robin, I kind of, nodded at them like, "Hey, Robin." And they did the same thing, or we'd just make eye contact and smile at each other because we were dressed up as Robin. There were so many Robins that I saw. There was one guy in particular whose attention I never was able to get, but his costume was really good. Made mine look even crappier. Oh, well. But anyway, as we were leaving or starting to walk away from the two young kids, the mom turned I heard the mom say to the Joker kid, "Look, that was your puddin'," referring to Madison. Oh, that was great. Okay, so that's pretty much all we did, or all I did during the Emerald City Comicon, except for the shopping. Like I said earlier, I did some shopping there, but I was really disappointed in the shopping. So every year I go to Emerald City Comicon, I take a list that is 2 or 4 pages long of back issues that I want to get. And this year was no different, although the list was shorter. I think it was only a page and a half this year. And because of all the stuff I'd bought before at previous Emerald Cities, and of course the the Rose City Comicon that I went to last September. And I I had culled my want list, my wish list down a bit, trying to get trades instead of single issue stuff. Anyway, but there was quite a few things on there that I wanted to get. Like I said, the two Miracle Man issues. There was a Ragman series in the 90s or the early 2000s, I don't remember which, that I missed. And Ragman's one of my favorite characters. Somehow I missed that. So I've been looking for that, and nobody has that. But I only bought maybe a half dozen back issues. Fortunately, though, including some Brave and the Bold's earlier, issue 94, I want to say, and 102, featuring Teen Titans appearances. I got some pretty good condition issues of those. Some adventure comic stuff for the run in the late 70s, early 80s that I want, and a few other things. I bought some trades as well. Anyway, if you want to see all the stuff that I got, including all the Neil Adams prints and some other prints that I got, the books that I bought, all that kind of stuff. I bought a Robin pop vinyl, a Tim Drake Robin pop vinyl. That was the last thing I purchased on Sunday before we left the con. So if you want to see all that stuff, me talking about that stuff, I did a video on YouTube about that, and that will be posted on the blog where this recording will be as well. So if you find the post, so just go to longboxreview.com and you can find that video as well, and another video where I talk to Gabby and Maddie about the things that they got as well. So those will be posted in the same blog post with this audio recording if you want to see that. And finally, not Emerald City Comicon related, but because of the timeliness of me recording, I watched, so on Friday, April 10th, was the debut of the new Netflix series Daredevil from Marvel. I watched the first 2 episodes Friday night, and it was so good, guys. If you ever wanted to know how a TV series could be and how good it could be without, and of course I'm editorializing here, without network interference, then go watch Daredevil, because it's rare to see a first episode of a TV series, a new TV series like this, be so good. From the get-go, from the starting gate, all that metaphor stuff. It was really good. It's very violent. You almost feel the punches that Matt is getting and delivering. But it comes across as more realistic in that way too. But it's just the actor who's playing Matt Murdock, Daredevil, is really good. The guest stars they've had on there. Foggy is funny. He's perfect for the role. The Karen Page actress, she's really good in the role. So just overall, it's just a good show. So I encourage you to check it out. All the episodes for the first season, I assume they're going to do more seasons, but anyway, all the episodes are out, ready to watch, if you will. And I know people online Friday night on Twitter were talking about it. Some people have already watched all the episodes. I'll get to them eventually, along with all the other TV series that I am so far behind on. But Daredevil has risen to the top of all those. And then I'll catch up on Constantine and Agent Carter. And then The Flash. And then maybe Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. So anyway, check it out. It was a lot of fun. If you have comments about anything that I've talked about in this episode, you can always leave those comments or send them to me anyway. You can send comments to me by emailing me at longboxreview@gmail.com. There's also other ways to get a hold of me. I'm on Twitter at longboxreview, facebook.com/longboxreview. I'm on Tumblr, Just search these various places for Long Box Review, all one word, and you can find me. And I'm on Instagram now, where I post, like I may have mentioned that. I think I mentioned that at the beginning of the show. Anyway, I've talked so long now, I've forgotten what I've said earlier. So I will get out of here. Thanks for listening, everybody. I really appreciate it. If you have a moment, if you don't mind, go log on to your iTunes if you have it, and leave a review for the show. I'd really appreciate that. Anyway, thanks for listening. I will talk to you next time. Bye-bye.